Hey, this is Senator Justin Reedy coming to you from Annapolis here at the end of the 11th week of the 2023 General Assembly session. After this week, we've only got really 2 weeks and a day until the session is over. And I hope you, like me, are counting the days until the legislature's out of session and our wallets are safe again. One of the biggest things we deal with every session, and it's really the only constitutionally required thing we have to do in a legislative session, is pass a balanced state budget. Very happy that Maryland, like most states, is required to pass a balanced state budget, unlike our federal government. And so this year, coming into session, we really have had several years of really good fiscal management in our state. And we were coming into the legislative session with a large surplus, a large budget surplus. My number one priority, in addition to making sure that there were no tax increases, which is a huge deal, while we look for tax relief, we also want to be sure we don't have anything go up in taxes. Also wanted to be sure that we did not squander that whole budget surplus and spend it. And I was concerned at first because Governor Moore was making a lot of promises about different programs and different things he wanted to prioritize. And so a big focus of myself and our Republican caucus was to make sure that we had a budget that watched out for the future and did not raise taxes and was balanced, of course. And so actually, I always have to bring you a lot of bad news on these videos. There's good news here. The Senate version of the budget that we passed actually spends, it's hard for me to even say this, but it spends $1 billion less than last year. It actually spends less money than last year. But we did a lot of hard work. Republicans worked very hard on this issue. We actually had some good bipartisan cooperation. I don't like everything in the budget, but it starts out with a baseline. We're actually spending about $1 billion less than last year. Some of that's because we have less federal spending rolling through the state, but it's still an accomplishment to have it go down, the budget to go down. We left, the state budget has put $2.5 billion into what's called the Rainy Day Fund. The Rainy Day Fund is a statutory fund designed to, we're mandated to have a 5% cushion in the Rainy Day Fund. And actually this $2.5 billion in our operating budget Rainy Day Fund, it's about double what we're required to have. So it puts a nice cushion in there in case we see economic downturns coming, which because of the Joe Biden economy, I think are very much on the way. Very concerned about that. But we put $2.5 billion into the Rainy Day Fund, and the budget, even with that, also has a surplus of about $500 million this year. So that's good news. Built into the budget is an expansion of tax relief for retired veterans. As you all know, I've fought, and our Republicans have fought, to further reduce retirement taxes on everybody. We offered amendments to try to do that to the budget. Those were rejected, but there is an expansion of the veterans of a tax credit for veterans retirement pay that is in there. There are no tax increases in this budget. And the other big news is I talked to you guys about Boost before, the fund that has a small amount of money set aside so that disadvantaged children particularly can attend private schools and get out of failing schools. In the Senate, we actually restored the cut. The Governor Moore's budget, as proposed, cut about 20% of that fund and was going to phase the fund out. We actually restored that cut money and have restored the language to allow the program to continue. Now, the House version of the budget that passed doesn't have that. So there's going to be now a conference committee that meets to go over the differences between the two versions of the budget. So there's still going to be a fight on that. But on the Senate side, we restored the Boost funding. And I talk about a lot about the things that I'm fighting down here from sort of the extreme left. But we did get some really good bipartisan cooperation and compromise, and I think that's worth noting on this. So the budget now has passed, the operating budget. Next week, we will be doing the capital budget, which is the portion of the budget that deals with capital expenditures. And I'm working very hard with Senator West, who's our other Carroll County Senator, and we're working with our delegates on the House side from the Carroll County delegation to make sure that our priorities for our district and our county and Mount Airy and the piece of Frederick County that I represent, that our priorities there for capital needs are funded, and we're working on that and hope to have an update for you on that in the near future. But again, the state budget passed this week. It's in two different forms, so there will be conversations. We'll have a final vote on whatever the worked out differences are probably next week as well. But that was actually something that I think was at least somewhat positive news. Now, looking ahead, I'm not sure what the future holds as far as our state spending. We have some big ticket items coming up, that a lot of which I did not vote for. but we are now having to pay for. And so I will be doing a lot over the coming months to see how, what we have to watch out for. But that was at least something that I thought was relatively positive news. A lot of other things are happening. I'll come back to you next week with more updates. This week was a little calmer because we just had that crossover Monday night. So this week had a lot of kind of just initial things, almost like an eye of the hurricane this week is, until we pick back up for the final 2 weeks with lots of bills in committee and on the floor. I will do my best to keep you posted. Please feel free to reach out to me anytime, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Have a great weekend.